Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining the Aerobotics live webinar on actionable citrus insights for the upcoming season. My name's Vic van den Berg. I'm the head of citrus for Aerobotics around the world, and with me and co-presenting is Nick Affat, the manager for citrus for the Eastern Cape region. And we're going to be taking you through a few items this morning. We're going to be starting off with just giving you a quick overview of who we are and what we do for those newcomers. And then we're going to be taking everyone through a few of our recent updates for our existing customers to show them a few of our recent developments and improvements. And then Nick's going to take us through a few live demonstrations within Aeroview, alongside a how-to guide on using our new zonal maps in the InField app, which I believe many have had some questions about, and it's been very exciting for us to launch it. So we want to make sure that everyone's comfortable with making use of this new functionality. All right. So just a quick agenda for the session. We're going to start with a small intro. I'm going to take everyone through a quick overview. Will then be followed by our product improvements and then a live demonstration. And then we'll have a few minutes at the end for any questions and answers. So if I may ask, if anyone does have any questions that they want to ask at the end, please pop them in the chat section of this call at the bottom, not the Q&A section, and we'll answer those at the end. All right, so just a quick overview of who we are and where we've come in the last couple of years. But Aerobotics is essentially an agricultural services provider who develops and builds intelligent tools to help farmers in agriculture. And we've grown exceptionally in the last couple of months, and we are now a global operator in more than 18 countries and service more than 200,000 hectares. And our big focus is obviously on the perennial crop market. And this webinar is a big focus on the services that we offer to citrus growers. And there's just a quick quote there of one of our big advocates in Australia, who uses our services on a per tree level so that he can offer better solutions to his growers. So just where the value lies, so the tools that we've built allows farmers to take the uncertainty out of understanding where their crop performance lies, because we have developed tools to essentially track the impact of interventions or applications that you or your service providers have staged. And we do so by building tools where we can identify variability in the orchards from a high level or an orchard level all the way down to a per tree level, so that you can identify zones that may be underperforming to send in teams to take corrective measures. And the reason why this adds value to growers is because we're able to have a look whether or not the applications that we are using are being put in the right places and the right quantities. And I'm speaking very much to fertilizer and chemical applications in this regard. And then also tree counts and inventory management. Part of our services, we essentially count every tree in the orchard and on your farm. And we also report on missing trees, so blanks or skips or dead trees, so that you can understand whether or not your orchards are at full productivity and that you can better plan nursery orders or resets or replants. So just a quick overview and how it works. So we use drones to collect high resolution imagery over your orchards, and we generate high resolution georeference map layers with our multispectral cameras. And then we turn those maps into data and ultimately into information for growers to use. And growers can use this to get exact tree metrics down to a per tree level, or zonal information on an orchard level, depending on the level of granularity that they would like to go in. But most importantly, we've developed a world-class application for your smartphone for you to be then able to go into that orchard to go and collect information and understand where those problem areas lie and what's causing it. Just quick one before we dive in here. There's often queries about what NDRE or NDVI is, which are essentially a technology that we use on the multispectral cameras that are fitted to the drones. But NDRE is normalized difference red edge index. And what differentiates it from NDVI is it allows for the camera to look far deeper or penetrate far deeper into the canopy of the tree for us to get a real idea of the chlorophyll content inside the leaves. The NDVI lens, which is also fitted on the camera, that's the normalized differentiation vegetative index, and that rather looks at the vigor of the trees or the biomass. So it's very important that when you're using our tools that you understand what the two offer when you are selecting between them, and Nick will take us through exactly how that works a little bit later in the demo. Okay, so first off, I think one of the major value propositions that we've developed is that we offer growers an opportunity to identify, quantify, and correct variation in the orchards. So we can instantly, after a flight, identify where high or low performing areas or trees are in the orchard, and we can quantify that by actually assigning a number of trees that all share a particular value. So in here is an example of one of our maps of a particular farm, where we were able to identify a particular bell curve in the variation of that orchard. And we can then essentially go and select all the trees and areas that share commonality of a low chlorophyll index there. And those trees essentially become highlighted on the map for us to understand where the trends are. And more importantly, we can then quantify exactly how many trees are influenced. So here's an example of an orchard with 2,088 trees, of which 848 trees are influenced by a certain level of stress alongside where they are. We also allow growers to run smart and efficient programs to target the right needs. So using our zonal maps, whether they may be tree canopy size or volume maps, we're allowing farmers to make better decisions when deciding on their calibrations of either their spray technology equipment or carts, alongside with their fertilizer carts or variable rate fertilizer spreaders in the event that they have them. So we essentially measure the volume and canopy size of every single tree in the orchard. So just statistically, we have a very, very good idea of the average tree volume or average tree canopy size of that orchard. So when it comes to calibrating your sprayers for either water delivery or pressure and chemical, you can far better calibrate your tree row volume calibration on your sprayer using our tree row volume metrics. We've also developed prescription maps, which are downloadable as shape files for any customers that may have variable rate equipment, whether it may be for top dressing or for spraying. And these maps can essentially be downloaded, prescriptions can be written and imported into the job computer of that spreader if it has it. And then also what's very important is being able to track changes over time. So we often recommend, and many of our customers around the world will fly multiple times throughout the year, and the same time every year, year on year, to see whether or not improvements are being gained in their orchards, flight after flight. So here's an example of a flight that occurred at a particular stage in time. A zonal map was created to identify stressed areas. The grower then went and applied certain foliar feeds and nutrients. And then months later, we flew again and were able to actually quantify and identify that the variation in that orchard decreased. And then from an inventory management perspective, because we count every single tree on the farm and also report on missing trees, we've created a fantastic overview screen, which is also downloadable as a CSV for you to track the inventories on your farm on a per orchard level, along with missing trees. So on the bottom right, here's an example of what one of our tree counting maps look like. All the light blue dots are individual trees that we've identified. The black dots are missing trees, which we then quantify. And then in our software, if we've flown your entire farm, we can do so in a summary or an overview page to give you a complete farm census. And then very importantly is this information needs to be used. So we create a platform where you can share your information either between one another on your farm, such as between farm managers or consultants, and then use that information in our scouting app to collect data and then create reports off the back of that data. So on the far right here, and Nick will speak about it briefly, is scouting information that you collect on the mobile app can be synced back to the platform, and pest and disease maps and hotspots and graphs can be created. Here's just a quick idea of what some of our services include. We've got either 1, 2, or 3 flight packages per season, and we've got certain growers that fly up to 6 times per year, but it essentially includes tree counts and missing trees, per tree health metrics, area volume, where you get the orchard overview, exportable CSVs, zonal maps, and satellite imagery, along with our world-class mobile scouting app for collecting information, task assignment, satellite data, and pest and disease reporting, and obviously premium aerobotics training and support to make sure that you're comfortable with the technology. All right, just some product improvements for our existing customers around the world. We've created a new user management system that some of you may have experienced, but most importantly, this is so that you can quickly and easily share your information between those who have a stake in your operation, whether it may be management, investors, consultants, or so forth. And you can quickly assign different levels of access to different people for different farms in your business. So you can either share access for someone to only be able to view your information, or you can share a particular access right for those to be able to even edit it. But most importantly, what we're trying to create here is an opportunity for, after our flights, for you to be quickly able to share our maps with those who help you or advise you on the interventions needed to correct those variations. So whether it may be external or third-party agriculturalists or agronomists, or whether it may be your pest and disease consultants, all our information you can share and control what you share with them quickly and easily so that they can assist you. The other screen that we've created is this new O-Farm overview page, which you essentially arrive on when you log in. And for all the orchards that we've flown, we summarize some of the most high-level data points to report to you in an easy fashion and allow you to kind of rank and filter quickly between it. So here's an example of a farm whereby we flew the entire farm. Every tree has been counted. Missing trees have been reported. We give a report on the average health of every orchard, which you can then rank, the health variation, the average area in terms of square meters for the canopies, and in the health variation. So it's just a fantastic way to, after one of our flights, to quickly identify which orchards you want to prioritize, rank and filter by them, and then deep dive into each orchard to understand what the nature of the challenges are. Also, new improvements is we've upgraded our app. So we now have improved speed and efficiencies by 80 to 90% in terms of sync speed and download. And obviously, most importantly, we've got our zonal maps now available inside the app, which is something that many have asked for and we have now developed. And here's an example on the left of what that would look like. And what's great about this is you can download these zonal maps into your app. And so when you're walking through your orchard or scouting, you actually have an idea of exactly in which type of zone you are in the orchard to keep an eye out for that variation. And Nick's going to take us through a little bit more of that later. And then also we've had some upgrades in terms of our models, because as you can imagine, we see a lot of trees all around the world, varieties of orchards with large and small trees, hedges, drape nets, fixed nets, and open, all in a single block. And then to solve for these challenges, our tech team have gone and further improved our models to be able to identify these changes. So here's just an example of our new hedge upgrade, where we are now able to successfully count individual trees, although they may be hedged. Here on the left is the first version of what that model looked like. Here on the right is the second upgrade, which is now available to all growers. So you can see massive improvement in the way that we identify canopies in challenging conditions. And then also our tree finder in identifying small trees have also drastically improved, whereby now we can successfully identify smaller trees or resets or replants that have been planted to help farmers with their inventories. And lastly, further improvements with our technology to successfully identify and report on trees through nets. Here's an example of a really close-up of a netted orchard we flew. When the tree count model ran, instantly we were able to identify the missing tree, where you can see it in this image. So just to rest assured, all those who are now busy making improvements on their farms and putting up nets or drapes, we can still successfully report on tree statistics through the nets. And here's an example of how accurate that's become. And that's it from me, and some live product demonstration is up to follow with Nick. So Nick, thank you very much, and take it away.
Cheers, Vic. And just from my side, a quick thank you to all the attendees for making themselves available to join us this morning on the webinar. I've noticed some very familiar names on the list of attendees. So welcome to everybody. For me, this is always the most exciting part of our product, is when we get the opportunity to take our clients through an experience of what their farm looks like digitally from above. And what we've done here this morning is we've selected one of our growers where we've seen some amazing success, particularly regarding our capacity to identify stress areas, and then the closing of the loop on that information when application was then made and the rectification was realized. So I know that Vic touched earlier on what our farm overview page does look like. I've sort of leapfrogged that, and I've just sort of deep dived into one of the orchards that were identified as problem orchards. And you'll notice that there's plenty to go through here on this tree insights analysis page that we've landed on here. So we've selected the block over here. You can see it's block number 3, and we have a particular flight date. This flight was done back in 2017, in July. Our client saw that there were noticeable sort of areas of stress within this orchard and decided to call on us for service. We had flown this particular orchard, and after we had run the analytics, we saw a very particular picture here of what the tree status looked like, particularly referring to the tree vigor. So if you have a look over here, sorry, excuse that. If you have a look over here, naturally every single tree within this orchard will be allocated a specific rating or ranking, which will then be color coded. And that color coding chart makes a little bit more sense once you've opened up this sort of like sliding scale at the top there. So noticing that there are definitely noticeably stressed trees, and Vic touched on this earlier, that once selecting these trees, it's easy to quantify what these issues are and where these issues lie, I think, more importantly. So that is something that the grower had then done, and noticed that there was an area sort of nearer to the bottom here where issues became evident. And he had then called on his consultant, chemical consultant, to come in and advise on what he thought might be the issue. After the two of them had sort of stepped foot on farm and had a little bit of a poke around, they noticed that there was a very serious nematode infestation on this particular orchard. The consultant then recommended application of a product, Vellum, and after a number of treatments and a couple months down the line, the client then had us fly over this orchard once again, and a very different picture was painted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it looks like if we were to navigate through over here from the selected date to a different flight date, this time 18 months down the line in December of 2018. If we were to select this flight date, we'll notice that there's noticeable differences and changes within the vigor of this particular block. Previously, I think we noticed that distribution looked very different. There was a grouping of trees up to the top here where they weren't sort of sitting in this maximum health or vigor zone over here, and this paints a very, very different picture. I think the point I'm trying to get to here is that we love the fact that our data is not only really great to look at, and it gives you that high level overview of your farms, but it also allows you to make real life actionable changes to what is happening on farm. So you take that information, and you go out into the field, and you action it. So this is just a really interesting case that we like to report on, and it just shows you the difference between sort of having that insight prior to treatment, and then what that insight might look like after treatment. This was sort of just a quick look at what it looks like to navigate through to one of the farms and what that looks like live. But we have spent a little bit more time, and Vic touched on some of the really key improvements that we've made over the last 18 months in the product. And I wanted to take us all through that step by step, what it looks like once you've opened up your profile in Aeroview and you land on our brand new Aeroview homepage overview page. Right, so this is what it looks like. This is a different one of our clients and producers, and you might notice that. Apologies. Right, I should be back. Is everybody still with me? I hope. Sorry about that. You'll notice that we had flown a large portion of this client's farm, and all of that information is instantly viewable and visible as you open up your profile. So there's no more digging around and scratching around to find this information. Instead, it's all there, and it's easily surmised for easy consumption. All the different blocks are ranked with all their relevant information. I think Vic did mention that massive gains have been made on the side of like tree count and tree census functionality, and that's evident over here with the opportunity to go ahead then and rank, filter your missing trees however you like. And this plays a major role for a lot of our producers and clients that are on farm that want to manage their inventory stock a little bit better. And then the same can be said over here for health variance, area, and area variance. What I had done on this particular farm is that we sat and we chatted, and we thought that something for him that is obviously very, very important is ensuring that his orchard's health is as homogeneous as possible. He doesn't want to have areas where there's some significant stress in areas that are producing well, because it affects his overall yield, and I think it affects his applications on farm. So we went and we filtered this, as you can see, under health variance from high to low. On doing that, we noticed that a majority of his farms, orchards, ranked 0.4 to 0.1 with regards to variance, with only this single block of here suffering from some serious health variance. So the alarm bells went off immediately. We knew where we wanted to have a look, which was this block M04. What I think is really nice about what we've done here is that we can then select that block by simply clicking on its name, and it will hyperlink you straight to that orchard in Aeroview. Once that you've landed on that orchard, naturally your latest high resolution drone imagery is available. But what is also really nice is that you don't only have that visual layer, you obviously have layers pertaining to vigor, to elevation, and to health. And all of these are selectable by simply clicking through them. But what is also really nice is that these layers are then obviously compatible with this tree data over here. I'm going to leave this on visual. I'm going to go ahead and click through some of the tree data analytics over here. For this particular farmer, we noticed that there was significant variance in health. So we naturally went straight to the health tree metric tab over here and selected that. After selecting that tab, you'll notice that sort of looks like a bit of a smarty box here once you had opened up the tree data. And I think that already shows you that there is some significant variance within health within this particular orchard. And something that we had spent some time doing was really highlighting these trees that sort of sat in the lower end of the spectrum here to identify and isolate where these issues are coming from, and to quantify, as Vic mentioned earlier, what this meant for this grower. So talking to almost a third of the orchard was underperforming, and I think it's very, very, very clear to see where these areas are isolated to. What I think is really leaps and bounds that have been made on the platform is that, yes, the tree insights is fantastic, but often very granular and a little bit difficult to action for some of our growers, particularly the guys farming on larger scales. So what we've done here is we've added the opportunity to move to a zonal view that Vic did touch on. So I'm going to select zonal view here. I'm still under tree data, selected the health tab, but now I'm selecting health zones. And you'll notice as I click that, the maps then load, our analytics are run, and that block is then split up into 3 different portions where it's easy to say, okay, cool, I understand that these areas over here are areas of concern or areas where I need to invest some of my labor, my manpower. 3 zones is nice, and we find that a lot of our growers are quite happy to make use of the 3 zones. There are instances where some of the growers have chosen to do 5 zones as well, and we have the capacity to do both. Naturally, the 5 zones being a little bit more granular really gives them an opportunity to get nitty-gritty with what's happening in the orchards. And I think this talks again to the whole idea of precision farming and making the most of whatever land it is that is available to you as a client or a producer on the field, or in the field rather. So we've had a look at the zonal features, and this is really exciting because this has been sort of taken over and become a part of what we're doing on the mobile application side of things. But when we were setting up the scouting route for this particular farmer, we had just used the per tree analytics, which worked pretty well. So we highlighted some of these underperforming trees. And what we simply did is we selected a new route. Vic touched on it earlier, and we've really spent a lot of energy over the last couple of months developing this Aeroview InField app to help close the loop on our information and to make this information more meaningful than ever. I'm going to select new route over here, and it's going to give us the opportunity to go ahead and select these waypoints. You'll notice over here, I've been able to leave those underperforming trees selected, and then I'll simply navigate over to a tree that might be underperforming, or a tree that may be of concern, or an area that may be of concern, and I'll simply highlight and click that. I can add as many waypoints as I'd like, and you'll notice as I do that, it says certain tree would be selected. It gives you the indicators per health metric of that tree. But I think most exciting and most importantly over here is that every single point within the farm or on the map over here is geo-referenced. And that is how it becomes so powerful in field when using our mobile application. Right. We've selected the waypoints that are applicable to this specific scouting route. And what I'll do is I'll navigate to the top of the screen here and select next. There's a couple of details that we need to fill in order to complete setting up of the scout route. One of them would be to be giving the scout route a name. We earlier last week went ahead and did a scout route, and we named it Aerobotics Webinar Scout. Today I'll just say live demo. We'll be able to save the scout route. So we're just following the blue buttons all around the home screen over here. And once we do that, it'll pop up with an option for us to select what is this mission for. Are we doing problem finding, or is this a yield estimation mission? And that talks to another service that we have altogether. But today, obviously, our focus being the tree insights. Select route demo. We've said that this is our live demo route, so I'm going to leave that just there. And then it gives us an opportunity to select a date to which we'd like to have this scout route performed. I think is really exciting is that not only can you select a date sort of now in the immediate future, today, tomorrow, but you can select that same scout route and schedule it in for a month's time or 2 months' time if you were wanting a consultant or a scout to go out and do the same route at a later stage. So I'm going to go ahead and just say today we'll go out and do this. And then we're able to assign the scout route to any of the key players that might be involved on farm, from consultants in certain cases to scouts and farm managers. And what I've done is I've added myself as a consultant to this farm, and I'll be able to use that option to schedule the scout or assign that scout to myself. Once I've done that, you'll notice that another screen pops up that will say that the scout has been scheduled successfully. And this is where all of this information becomes applicable in field, and we navigate you guys back to our Aeroview InField app. I'm going to skip back over to our presentation, and it's a little bit difficult to demo this when you're not out in the field in real life. So we had gone out and performed the scout a couple of weeks ago, and I took a couple of screenshots to sort of outline exactly what it is that it might look like once you've scheduled that scout, and it is now becoming a part of what you're doing on the mobile application in the field. Right. I'm having a little bit of connectivity issue, and I'm going to go ahead and show anyway, and let's see what it looks like. Right. So I'm just missing a tile here, but once you've loaded or opened up the Aeroview InField scouting app, you'll be sort of prompted to log into the app. Naturally, your login credentials will be the same credentials that you use for Aeroview InField. I mean, for Aeroview, the web-based platform, sorry. And then you'll be dropped onto the home screen. And I know that Vic was quite serious about me showing some of the detail on this, and I'm not sure if it does pop up a little bit later. I am having connectivity issues. Vic, are you able to share these slides with me and see if it's any better on your side?
Yes, I'll be sharing now.
Thank you, Vic. Sorry about that. Much better. There we go. Thank you. So once you've logged on, naturally the Aeroview InField app is available on both iOS and on Android. Once you go ahead and log in using the credentials for Aeroview, this is what your home screen will look like. And the home screen is very, very simple to navigate. When you are planning on heading out for a scout, it's very, very important that highlighted in red there, you make sure that you're clicking that sync button. So highlighted in red on the top right-hand side there is the sync button. And what this does is it syncs any scout routes. It might be just the one, it might be multiple scout routes. You might be a consultant or a farmer that has multiple properties to manage, and it will synchronize all of that data back. So it's very important that you're making sure that the sync was successful and that everything is all green lights. Moving along from there, you'll notice that back at the home screen, there is an option to click on our hamburger menu on the top left-hand side there. And what that does is it opens up an opportunity for you to have a look at a whole bunch of very exciting information regarding scout history. But right now, we are more concerned about the data downloading capacity, which gives you access to your high-resolution maps, visual maps and zonal maps on your Aeroview InField scouting app. So you want to go ahead and click download data. Vic's highlighted it there in red. And a list of all of your orchards will then pop up. All of the orchards that have been flown with us will pop up, and you'll easily be able to select download on any of those particular orchards. We were looking at orchard MO4 earlier, and what I did is I went and I clicked download over there, and over on the next slide, you'll notice that we would have downloaded it, and it'll kick you back onto the home screen. All of that happens. Very important that we're just making sure that every single step of the way, you're looking out for notifications on the app. It will say that it is complete once it has done the download. And then this is where it gets really exciting. You can go ahead and click select a planned scout route and or a new random scout if that is the case. But right here we've done planned scout route, and we'll take you through to these thumbnails of a whole long list of different planned scouts. We saw how I set up the scout route just a minute ago. That's what the thumbnail looked like and what the route looked like. If I were to select that, it will deep dive or take me straight into a map of that particular orchard. And the waypoints will be highlighted in blue over there. What is quite exciting and what is very important to note here is that the application only allows for consultants or scouts to add data points if they are in fact in the field at that particular orchard within a certain proximity to the points that have been sort of laid out throughout the scout route. So the adding a data point comes in next, where we move over to the next slide. And we'll talk to that in a second, but Vic was trying to cue me there to say, we must not forget that the health zones map has become an added feature and an added function to what is now viewable to us on the Aeroview InField app. So if you don't mind going back one slide, Vic, sorry. You'll notice that at the top of that screen right now, we only have the high resolution drone imagery, which is great, and all the information pertaining to the flight date. But right there, that's that little toggle that you want to make use of. If that is something that you're wanting to use, if you want to be viewing the zonal maps while you're in the field, get a better idea of where you are in a particular zone from a bird's eye view, you're going to click that button. And then as Vic showed you on the following slide, we'll show you exactly as we saw on Aeroview, the web-based application, on the application on your phone, where it is that you might be within that particular orchard. Naturally, our scout route followed a bunch of really, really stressed trees. If you look very closely under that last plus button, that blue circle over there is my current or was my live location within the orchard. And only at that point was I then able to click that blue plus button to add a data point. So I'm in that red zone. I'm close enough to that plus button to make a scout happen and to add a data point. So I simply click the blue plus button, bottom of the screen over there, and then it pulls up a screen that allows me to select an option or select a category of what it is that I've found out in the field. So very intuitive, and I think that it is really as simple as clicking your way through your scout. There are certain options that are offered to you as you click that add a data point button, one being pest, one being disease. naturally weeds and irrigation being some of the other common faced challenges out in the field. And while out in the field with the farmer, he said that there was no doubt about it, that he was struggling with a particular disease in this orchard. So we had selected disease, and that very last tile on the right-hand side shows you what the rest of the options are that would be displayed once I've selected to add a data point for disease, for instance. You'll notice that the diseases are searchable by type. If you select that button, a list will drop down. But if you start populating it with a particular disease name, we'll obviously search and find for that for you. You'll simply select it, click it. You'll be able to sort of describe what type of intensity is happening regarding that disease in that particular part of the orchard. In this instance, it was a high prevalence. And then there's another couple really interesting data points that you can add. One being the capacity to add a note or to take a note. So to type something out for your consultant or your farm manager. But then most powerfully, I find, is the opportunity to take a photo. I had selected take a photo, and after I had captured a photo, you'll see obviously at the bottom there it says view one photo. It will save this scout for you, and everything becomes viewable as a data point that has been captured. So that tile on the far left-hand side there. We spoke about all the comments that we had added, what type of disease, what level it was, any comments, and then naturally the imagery, which then becomes viewable on the application, but more importantly on our web-based platform. Very important though, that we are saving all along the way, and our blue highlighted buttons will help make sure that you don't miss a data point. I've saved over there, and then what I've also done is taking you back to what that will look like once you've successfully added that data point. And then if you wish to continue your scout with InField, we'll be able to continue, and those data points will then accumulate 2, 3, 4, whatever it might be. But most importantly, once we're done out in the field, we're going to be ending our scout, and we need to make sure that whoever it is that's out in the field is saving that scout as well, so that this data becomes accessible after we've synced it back. And you'll see that once we've saved, on the next page, it will take you back to what it would look like on the home screen. And then we'll simply select sync again. It was that button on the top right. And all that information then becomes synced back to our Aeroview InField application. And I did take a screenshot, and I'm more than happy to navigate back to the Aeroview platform, Vic, if you'd prefer me to do that. But this is what it would look like on Aeroview as if you were logged in. We were previously at the Tree Insights section. We'll navigate down to Scouting. And if we were to select Scout Reports, it will take you straight to your latest scouting information within a particular date frame. And that pin will be dropped, geo-referenced on the map for you to go and have a look at. What is very nice is that this is naturally all filterable and sortable. So if you were only wanting to look at a particular orchard or within a particular time frame or for a particular disease or pest, that is all selectable, so that that data isn't sort of overwhelming, and instead you're looking for exactly what those issues are that are priorities to you at that moment. So here, this example was disease. We had selected to report this back as a marker. That marker over there on the map, you'll see will have all that information we had listed on the app. So the date of the scout, when that had happened, where that coordinate was dropped, what the disease was, and then that picture is also available to you. So if you as a farm manager or a farm operator isn't able to get out in field, but still wants eyes on what's happening on the ground, this is a great way to do that. But I think often very, very granular, and what farm managers and some of our clients prefer to see is their data viewable by table format. And that is another functionality that we have built in for disease over here. If you were to select table, a table would pop out week by week, and it'll give you a good look at what is happening with regards to scouting on your farm. And I think that's sort of where my time comes to an end. Vic, if there's anything that I've omitted, please feel free to add. But I think we've all had a good taste of what Aeroview looks like and the capacity and the capabilities of our application and how it's improved over the last 18 months.
No, thank you, Nick. That was fantastic. And I think what I wanted to leave the next few minutes open for is if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and post them in the chat section of the Zoom meet, and we'll get back to you. We had a query from Hanu regarding some apple farmers, two types of customers there, and then we've already had our Apple specialist make contact with him to answer your queries. And then I had one or two other queries come through another channel here. The one was just, when is the ideal time to fly? So obviously it's quite dependent on two things. One is tree phenology, considering the fact that we're taking multispectral images of the canopies, and the other is also around decision-making periods or budgeting periods within your business organization. So what we're finding in citrus, majority of our customers in the Southern Hemisphere are flying right now. So November, December, roundabout after flush and fruit set, when the trees are quite homogeneous in terms of their phenology and all gearing up for a fruit load. And what we're able to do now is give an extremely good representative of whether or not orchards are homogeneous. And if there is variation, we can identify it very quickly. So to answer that question, for citrus in the Southern Hemisphere, we would usually recommend to fly as soon as possible before the new year. And then again, to fly depending on your phenology requirements, but we usually recommend another flight just before harvest to get an idea of further variations, and then also a flight in the winter in terms of nutrient requirements for those trees. And then what we would recommend to growers is that we fly every year the same date, the same period, because what we can do, and like Nick showed us briefly, is we can actually compare flights with one another to show whether or not improvements have been made in your orchards, and we can quantify those improvements by overlaying a flight from 1 year on top of a flight from a second year. So that was one of the questions that came through the other channel. And then another one regarding whether or not we fly over nets or drapes. So certainly we do. We fly thousands of hectares of nets every year all around the world. As you know, there's lots of nets going up in the Marble Hall, Groblersdal area, as well as in the Eastern Cape. Our tree insight service sees right through the nets, and we report on tree inventories and statistics such as volume and canopy without any challenges. So nets is certainly not a challenge for us at all. So yeah, that's it from us. It was a 45-minute webinar, and we've hit the 45-minute mark now. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to email myself or Nick. I've put my email address there in the chat box. It's vic@aerobotics.com. And also, if you'd like, we'll be emailing this recorded webinar to you in the event that there's something you missed and you wanted to just refresh your memory. But from us here at Aerobotics, thank you very much for joining, and all the best for the coming season. And Merry Christmas if we don't see you before.